Canada has a serious problem, and it's something that has gotten even worse as years have gone by. And it hasn't really been quantified up till now in numbers. And now we have some numbers. We have some estimates of exactly how many Canadians have perished due to the fact that they're waiting on desperately needed health care. And the numbers are startling. The numbers get me start thinking about the G word, genocide, because they're so big, it's hard to think of it any other way. We're going to talk about the healthcare system in Canada, the lack of a healthcare system in Canada, what's really going on, and what the government doesn't want you to know. If you're in Canada, this is for you. If you're in the United States or other countries, this is for you as well. This is a warning of what happens when government gets its fingernails into healthcare and starts using it as a political weapon. It's not good. That's what it is. We saw what happened when communism took root in China. We saw what happened when communism took root in Russia. We saw what happened when communism took root in other countries. Massive extinction level events. Everywhere it goes, it causes mass deaths. And we're seeing that right now in Canada. Okay, before you're like, Steve, you're going too far out. What are the numbers? The estimates are now, since 2018, 75,000 Canadians have died waiting for health care. On waiting lists, they did not get the scans they needed. They did not get the treatments. They weren't able to get to see a specialist in time. They weren't able to get the surgery that they needed in time. And this includes the understanding that a lot of Canadians got tired of waiting, and so they went somewhere else. In fact, something that may surprise you is that private health insurance rates in Canada are about the same as private health insurance rates in the United States. In the United States, where you are responsible for your own health care, and so you need to have health insurance, Canadians have just as much private health insurance as they do in the United States. That's pretty surprising. Since they already have free health coverage, why in the world would they need extra private health insurance? Well, if you're in Canada, you know exactly why. Because you can't see a doctor when you need to. You can't see that specialist when you need to. Let's hear some of these numbers. This is for surgeries, okay? Now, this can be everything from a routine surgery to something that is absolutely life-essential surgery. In the United States versus Canada, this is the percentage of Canadians or Americans that were able to get their surgery within 1 month. 61% of Americans were able to get their needed surgery within 1 month. Only 35% of Canadians were able to. By 4 months, by month 4, 97% of Americans were able to have gotten their surgery. Almost all have gotten their surgery. There's always going to be a few percentage where it didn't work for their schedule, and so the patients are actually pushing it out or not pursuing it aggressively enough. In Canada, only 80% of people by month 4 had their surgery done. That means 20% of them have been waiting 4 months for a surgery and they still haven't gotten the surgery. Now, I don't know about how many surgeries can be postponed that long, but generally speaking, within 4 months, if you have a health situation, you need that surgery to have taken place, right? And it's not just that. It's not just surgeries. It's specialists. 70% of Americans were able to get to see a specialist within 4 weeks. So if you need a specialist and you schedule it, 70% of Americans have seen that specialist within 4 weeks. Canadians, 40%. The wait times for medical care, specialist surgeries in Canada are the worst in the world. Now, to end up dead last in something is a special kind of celebrity. And Canadians, maybe they're just too polite to actually demand health care on a reasonable time frame. But this is not a small matter. If we were to extrapolate this, the amount of Canadians that die every year waiting for health care, if this were in the United States, we would be looking at 240,000 deaths per year. That's a big number. Can you imagine 240,000 Americans dying in a year because they just couldn't get the scans, couldn't get to see the specialist, couldn't get the surgery that they needed? We would be talking about a major health crisis because that would be the third leading cause of death in the U.S. Probably. Heart disease, cancer, and then it would be not getting to see your doctor in time. Now, the only reason why I say maybe is because there's one that nobody ever seems to calculate, which is every time that people go out there, Johns Hopkins University did calculate this out, and that is medical mistakes. So doctors messing up in surgery, pharmacists prescribing the wrong prescription, medical errors. Probably account for about 250,000 deaths inside the United States per year, which would be slightly higher than the rate of deaths that they're having from just not seeing a doctor. So I don't know which is worse, not seeing a doctor or seeing a doctor, not seeing a doctor in Canada or seeing a doctor in the United States. But all that to say, the situation in Canada is at a level we haven't seen anywhere else. And the fact that nobody is talking about this is the truly astonishing part. Perhaps it is the Canadians' politeness and unwillingness to really talk about things that are happening. Or maybe they're just not allowed to talk about these things. I don't know. I know that there's been a lot of pushback. A few of the people that have gone out there and seriously criticized the Canadian healthcare system have gotten blacklisted, silenced. They've been debanked. They have been attacked in various ways by their own government. So much like the UK, where people can't criticize their government over there, so I do it for them. Canadians, by and large, are not allowed to complain about this either. And so I will complain about it for them. And an additional number here is how many Canadians have left Canada to get surgeries done elsewhere. We're looking at over 15,000 Canadians leave each year from Canada to go get surgeries elsewhere. Most of them to the United States, that's the truth. And while the United States healthcare system has its own problems, we're being overwhelmed. I just was speaking about that this morning, where 30% of people in the emergency rooms in the United States actually have health insurance and or actually pay, whereas 70% do not pay or go on some sort of payment plan, which they may or may not pay at the end of the day. And so this is kind of one of the big problems for hospitals. They're supposed to be private entities. They're supposed to be private corporations, but then they're handicapped Can you imagine a McDonald's functioning where the McDonald's is required to give everybody at least a cheeseburger, whether they can pay or not? You can just imagine how that really would drive either McDonald's out of business very quickly, or would force McDonald's to charge a whole heck of a lot more money for all the people that actually are purchasing food. The prices would go sky high because you're subsidizing all the people that aren't paying, right? But more than likely, the business would just go under, because how can you sustain that? With 15,000 Canadians who abandon the Canadian healthcare system completely and go somewhere else per year, and then we're talking about something like 30,000 every 2 years are perishing while waiting for health insurance, health coverage, or seeing a medical doctor or specialist, or getting the services that they need. This is what we're seeing up there. And this is not talked about enough, for sure. That we have people inside these societies that are being told that the system is really, really good. The healthcare system is so equitable, it's so fair, and it's so free. It's wonderful. Well, it's not free. Canadians are paying a lot of money for a healthcare system that doesn't work. Same thing over in the UK. They're paying a lot of money for a healthcare system that doesn't work. And where do we go with this? Well, I've already said exactly what Canadians are doing. They're fleeing the country to get surgeries. And two, they're also getting private health insurance. Private health insurance so they can go to private doctors who are not in the national healthcare system. Private doctors who will actually see them. Specialists who will actually see them. And even surgeons that can do surgeries outside the Canadian medical system. When you have this many people going outside the Canadian medical system and fleeing Canada completely, it really kind of goes to show how the system isn't as wonderful as you're being told. I wanted to make sure that my facts are correct, so I went to factcheck.com, or factchecked.org. A definitely nonpartisan, totally fair, and unbiased. You know exactly what I'm talking about. They're extremely partisan, extremely biased. But I was just curious to see what they had to say. And it showed up on the Google result. Can you imagine me searching about wait times with the Canadian? Of course, factcheck.org showed up in that search. Thanks, Google, for making sure that I'm getting accurate information from all these wonderful liberal, leftist, globalist agenda people. Anyway, what they had to say was they admitted that Canada has really long wait times. So they then went on to say, in true fact check style, that even though there are tremendously a lot longer wait times in Canada, it doesn't actually affect people's health care. So, though they have to wait a long time, it doesn't actually make anybody sick. And these 75,000 people that have died in the last 4 or 5 years, they don't really exist. They don't exist at all. And this is where we come back to what the thumbnail was all about. Is it genocide if it was accidental? Was it genocide when Chairman Mao did what he did, the Great Leap Forward? Was it genocide when we saw the other Stalin do his whole thing going forward? I think we'd all agree that it was. And so why do we look at what's happening in Canada and what's happening with socialized medicine elsewhere any differently? We haven't even talked about how many adults are aborted in Canada. I use that word aborted because isn't that the politically correct, sensitive term that we should be using? That these adults were aborted? they would say assisted end of life, something or other. But the simple fact is that they are murdering their own people. It's a special evil brand of murder. And one of the things that's most egregious about that is that you get counseling before that happens. And if they deem you to be a burden to the society or burden to the system, they will advise that you go through with it. If they deem that you are still contributing to society, then they're going to counsel you against it. And friends, please don't set up a system of government, medical coverage, benefits, where the government benefits from you not living anymore. The government benefiting from getting rid of you. They do not need any more encouragement along these lines. You know what I'm saying? They don't need any more help. They don't need the encouragement because they're going to do it just all right by themselves. We've seen that in Waco. We've seen that all sorts of other places where anyone who stands up to the government's authority gets the boot in the face. We've seen this in Canada quite a bit too, with the trucker rally and all that too. So all this coming back full circle. If you're in Canada, please be aware of how bad things really are. You won't hear it from the Canadian government. You won't hear it from the Canadian media because they're not allowed to talk about it. You won't even hear it from the independent people in Canada because every time they speak up like that, they get silenced. And they've either fled the country or they've stopped talking about it. We want to make sure that we keep giving you the truth and the facts. And for everyone who's outside of Canada, whether you're in the UK, the United States, Australia, the tragedy that is happening in Canada is truly epic. The scale of it is off the charts. And there should be a lot more people talking about this. The United States has its own problems, and we're definitely talking about that, and we need to fix a lot of that that's going on. But Canada, you need to get your house in order too, because there's a lot of people dying, a lot of people suffering, and there is not a lot being done about it. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.